One of the biggest tools the white supremacists use to control the general population is jealousy. Not just fear of minorities, but fear of minorities being more successful than you as a white person. Because implicitly, deep down, they know that they have a significant advantage over every single immigrant, over black and brown people in the US. Because of factors like racism, all you have to do is look to the government and see how white and how conservative it is. But they cannot accept the fact that somebody who came to America 5 years ago didn't know any English and was able to work themselves into society, get a good paying job, and take care of their family is more successful than them. They can't accept the fact that there are people who have come to America and done better in a system that was built for them. That is why I believe that a large portion of racism and bigotry in general is rooted in jealousy. It's not just about white people wanting to hoard the resources, it's about white people wanting to hoard them so other people don't get them. They would rather see people of color fail than another white person succeed, because it's never been about success, it's been about preventing others from doing well. That sort of spite is what keeps them going.
This is how I know that racism is literally just jealousy, because if you don't like a group of people, if you don't like someone or something, you leave it alone. You leave them alone, because if you don't like something or someone, you avoid them. But the thing with racists, or especially anti-Black racists, they do not leave us the fuck alone. Like, how can you claim to hate Black people yet be obsessed with them and be involved in everything they do? Anti-Black racists literally claim to hate Black people yet will literally not leave them alone. And you can see this with history. You can see this with segregation era when Black people were actually thriving on their own and yet white people destroyed their communities. It's just like, how can you claim to hate us, yet want to be us? And be so obsessed with us and our culture? You try to make us look bad, you come up with these crazy-ass slurs to call us. There is just so much anti-Blackness throughout America's conception that I literally could make like not even 2 hours, like I could be ranting about this forever. It's honestly just insane how you claim to hate us, yet you are literally obsessed with us. We live in your head rent-free.
You cannot convince me that racism isn't jealousy. You just cannot convince me. Racism is jealousy. I don't know why it's jealousy. I mean, I understand the jealousy part, but why turn it into racism instead of admiration, you know? But I think that's what jealous people do. You know, the inventors of racism really looked at literally everybody else around them and were like, all of you? All of you. Literally all of you, except us. And I guess they couldn't stand it. And I get that, because they looked around and they were like, so it's everything. It's the face card, it's the body, it's the genetics, it's the culture, it's the food, it's the clothing, it's your homelands, it's everything, it's your women. I'd be jealous too. I'm not gonna lie. I'd be jealous too. I don't know if I'd be heinous like most of those people, but I'd be jealous too, you know? So yeah, racism is jealousy. Highest form of admiration, I guess.
Hello and what's up, good people? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel, and I hope you're doing great from wherever you're watching this channel from. Now, in this particular video, what I want us to talk about, as you can already tell from that clip at the beginning of this video, is we want to expose how Black excellence actually exposes white insecurity. And we really want to expose or to show that the root of racism, or racism in itself, is rooted in jealousy. And let's be honest here, racism is never and has never been about the color of anyone's skin, but it is about control, it's about insecurity, it's about fear, and it is about jealousy. Many racists and many white supremacists just simply cannot stomach the idea that a Black person or a person of color, you know, can be doing better than them, you know. And because the moment a Black person begins to succeed in one way or the other, so the myth, that myth that sustains white supremacy, it begins to expose, it begins to crumble. So they call it supremacy. But what really this concept is insecurity. Is just, it is it's really just insecurity with a badge, to call it, supremacy. And the truth is actually showing. We have been seeing this. They themselves, the palm colors, have been talking about it, as the false system of white dominance starts collapsing worldwide, but especially in a place like America where black and white people coexist. The rage you see among white people, white racists and white supremacists, is really white envy just being exposed. And that's what I want us to try and talk about in this video. I'm going to share with you some of the clips that are going to talk more about this, some of the reactions of black and white people that, are talking about how racism is rooted in jealousy, and we'll be back with more commentary. If it is your first time to the channel, please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you on the other side.
I know I've been knew this, and I talk about jealousy and envy a lot on my social media. I found this out when I was in the military, and especially living where I am now, it's the type of jealousy that could really get someone hurt. And it's like black women get jealous of black women too, and do especially in certain jobs too. They will try and push you out. But I do know that typically when it comes to white women, this is very true. And I sense it. I studied psychology, and it is because they don't want to see us with something better than them, what they have, or like similar houses living in subdivisions, or better cars and things like that. Anything nicer, or buying something nice at the store. I actually had one was trying to break my bow because it was a Hello Kitty bow, and it was pretty.
Most people don't realize this, but all racism is just jealousy that has mutilated so much that now it's so evil. It's legit the almost final evil form of jealousy. And I'm not talking about the systemic racism, the racism that's in the systems that keep black people down and keep them in certain levels type of thing. I'm just talking about the type of racism that's in people's brains and their opinions and the biases they held, things like that. They're jealous of the things that maybe black people are capable of, or the natural bodies or faces that they're born with, or I don't know, maybe even the influence that black people have on things like entertainment and music and even sports and arts, just being jealous of kind of the culture that the black community holds. And mind you, jealousy is a very normal emotion. Jealousy is a normal human emotion to feel. But then when you don't clock your jealousy, when you can't accept your jealousy, you kind of hide it. And the more you try to hide something, the more it mutilates into something really, really evil. It's very similar to misogyny. It's very similar to hating women. Men, the thing is that a lot of people who are racist don't even realize they're racist. They'll have black friends and stuff like that, you know what I mean? But you don't actually look at black people as someone who is of equal, is equal to you. But yeah, it's very similar to women, because at the end of the day, a lot of men and women too, who hate other women and don't even realize it, it's because they're jealous of them. They're jealous of the privileges women have, and they're very different things. But then once you cross over women and also black women, it just turns into a whole different ballgame.
Pose the question, why do white people hate black people so much? I have been in situations where I've been surrounded by nothing but white people, and this conversation has come up. The race conversation has come up, and no one ever has an actual reason as to why they hate black people. There's always these, oh, black on black crime, oh, they're lazy, oh, they're this. But it's not actually, there's no legitimacy behind their reasoning. It's just shit that they've heard and they're regurgitating. And so, long story short, it really comes down to there is no reason. It's a deep-seated jealousy, a deep-seated hate that, black people exude greatness. Black people are the great inventors. Black people are the beginning of the human race, the Eve gene. And white people have worked so hard to erase the history and erase the greatness of the black race, down to even when things are invented, the majority of things that are invented were invented by a black person. But yet the white race has actually erased the original inventor from history and have put their names on things that they had no business putting their names on.
Child, I was on TikTok the other day, y'all, and I can't even remember the post. But baby, I went to those comments. Y'all gotta go to the comments. Sometimes it don't all the way be that post. It be the comments. So fast forward, I go down in the comments, and this person said she just knows in her heart of hearts that black success, black excellence is a direct pipeline to white racism. And baby, I had to pause. I had to pause because y'all know it's true. Because nothing, and I mean nothing, pisses racist white folks off more than black success. Baby, you can set your watch by it. The moment a black person shines, here they come. And baby, they be big mad. Look around. Shador Sanders, drag. Jasmine Crockett, attack. Stacey Abrams, undermine. Barack and Michelle Obama, baby, they been long gone and they still catching hate over being overqualified. Meanwhile, Donnie and them ran up in the White House with resumes of a used car salesman. Baby, nepotism at its best. Underqualified ain't even the word. But when it's us, baby, they gonna twist that story, twist that narrative, and tie themselves in knots trying to convince the world that we don't belong. And why though? Because deep down inside, they know, baby, they could never. We've done more with less. We thrive in a system that is built for our demise. And baby, they could never. That's why their brain short circuits with rage. That's why their comments overflow with vitriol. And honestly, y'all, I love that for us. I do. Because every time that rage gets out of hand, is proof that our excellence is undeniable. So happy Black History 365, y'all. Keep shining, keep winning, because our success will always expose their mediocrity. See y'all next time.
You know how people right now say the country's going backwards? I'm going to give you a demonstration of that. I'm not going to talk about economics in that kind of way, but I'm going to talk to you about enslavement was about 250 years, right? From 1619 to 1865 or thereabout, maybe not in Texas. Okay, so that's about 250 years, 246, 250 years. Jim Crow and segregation followed that. That was 100 years. So really, white people like to say, you know, we were enslaved for 350 years because Jim Crow and segregation was slavery, about 90% of enslavement. It was about 90%. Now that 90% declined as you get closer to 1965 when the Civil Rights passage was passed, when civil rights laws were passed. So you got 250 years, you got another 100 years, you got the civil rights laws from 1965 to right now. That's only 60 years. I'm 61. I was born in 64. I was born 1 year before the civil rights laws were passed. So I was born in that time of Jim Crow and segregation, right? The tail end of it, but those laws were passed in 1965. So here we are in 2025. We can effectively say that the era of civil rights is over. It was a 60-year period. It was only 60 years that the majority of white people, not all, I see you, you're one of the good ones, I see you, not all. It was only 60 years that white people were able to accept black people having a type of freedom that allowed us to excel and achieve and grow and change this country and change ourselves. And despite what you see on the nightly news, on movies and TV, and in big media, legacy media, Black people achieved a lot in those 60 years. And you know what? Look, that's not to disregard the 250 years that our ancestors worked through to get to those 100 years that our ancestors, my grandparents, my parents and grandparents fought to get to 1965 to get us to right here. We've seen one of the most remarkable community civilization turnarounds and glow up in world history in those 60 years. But they will tell you that we accomplished nothing and all we asked for were handouts. Don't believe those lies. Black women at the top of education, we build businesses, we build communities, we have achievements that have spanned the globe. It emulated our culture, our people, our styles, our music, our movies, our books, our education, our sociology. It's everywhere. We did that in 60 years. And the backlash you have right now is to that. But they're not going to win. We are.
Bingo. Clocked it. Because ultimately, this is why I find it so incredibly important to decenter whiteness from your queerness, no matter what you are, black, white, brown, whatever you are. And this is why I found it extremely difficult to maintain and sustain friendships with white queer people, because there is this constant self-victimization that is laughable. It's like you'll be in a conversation and you'll be like, hey, I'm dealing with XYZ because of my marginalized identity. And they'll be like, well, I'm also dealing with XYZ. And you'll be like, okay. You're just venting to them. You're literally just being a friend. You're venting and you're saying, well, I couldn't pay my rent. Well, I couldn't pay my rent in 2003, so it's like, okay, girl. Literally try to play this game that you didn't even realize you were playing. And the wild part about it is every single time you see that light of curiosity and spark in their eyes, the moment they feel like they can be friends with a person of color. And this is truly, I've seen this in lots of white queer women, almost as if they're the white queer Thanos, and they got one of their infinity stones the moment they get a person of color as a friend, because they latch on and they're like, how can I suck from the host? How can I try to one-up you and play Oppression Olympics every single moment, every single opportunity that I get? It's scary. And this is why it's so dangerous to be a person of color that is queer. Because what happens is we see danger, right? As humans, we know how to find danger. We know how to see danger. The problem with white queer people is they will be the danger that was lurking there the whole time and you had no clue. You'll be 3-4 years into a friendship only to find out, oh, you didn't like me. I was just one of your infinity stones for your virtue signaling, for your potluck. Oh. And the older I get and the more into my queerness and my queer journey I get, the more I can clock those red flags. But it is very it's very debilitating. It's very painful. It's very hurtful. But yes, the jealousy is absolutely there. Clocked it.
Do you remember yesterday when I was telling you about how I got accused of stealing an orchestra ticket, which was attached to 8 other legitimate tickets, by a volunteer at my local symphony? Now, inevitably, as with every story like that about my town, there's always someone who comes to that person's defense or comes to the organization's defense and says, look, that was just one really bad person in otherwise a well-meaning community. Now, you'll also remember I told you to go get White Rage by Professor Carol Anderson, because she's brilliant and she helps us understand how all of us are getting ripped off by about 1 year, 2 years after Carol writes this book, she goes and has this conversation that's recorded. Now, in this conversation, she talks a lot about framing, how even the way we choose to have the discussion of race and class and how it affects poor whites, well-off Black people, middle-class Black people, the framing of that conversation matters in order for us to understand what kind of answers we're going to get and how we're going to understand the same history. So what do I mean by framing? Well, the one big example that she uses and the one thing she would caution is that we have to stop looking at American history in terms of there were good guys and bad guys. We live in a country that was built on some pretty uniquely aspirational ideas in terms of the Constitution and a lot of the documents that inspired and then wrote into being this democracy. They include phrases like liberty, pursuit of happiness, justice for all. They include things like we hold these truths to be self-evident. They talk about this ideal that they're moving forward. Never mind that we have a liberal democracy that only was for a certain group of people for many, many years, centuries. The whole thing is that you've got these big, high-hitting marks that throughout every century, more people have demanded that they be included in, right? Okay, so we get that. Here's what Carol warns about. When you have these aspirational ideas that are there from the onset, the temptation when you're looking back at history is to assume that we were always on track to giving those things to everybody. And the reason it didn't happen soon enough was that there were some real bad people who just happened to be around, who weren't enlightened, and the white enlightenment hadn't spread everywhere. It just, there were some people who always saw it coming, but there were some who were like really just not good people, and they were racist. And that's why it didn't happen for the black people and the brown people and the Native Americans and the women for a long time. Okay, let's go back to the symphony example, which is no great persecution. I have to say again, because some of you think I think it is. I know it's not. Anyways, this woman, we look at her. We look at how she feels she's allowed to treat me. Look at how she thinks the institution will back her up. Look at how she stands firm in her belief on those things. Is it accurate? Is it smart to say that the problem begins and ends with her as an individual? No, it doesn't. So if we get rid of that volunteer who went through that organization's training, knows people in that organization, by just getting rid of her, have we actually gotten rid of the profiling, the bad customer service, and this general attitude towards certain kinds of concert goers? No, we haven't. The organization itself stays the same. And this is Carol's point with so much of the American society and understanding American history. We have this idea that time healed these things, that we identified the bad racist people. We got rid of them. And now anything that happens to you, anything that's a problem, it's 100% all your personal responsibility. It has absolutely nothing to do with collective investment into certain kinds of institutions or certain kinds of organizations or laws and different legal codes that continue to undermine a group of people. So right in the prologue, Carol, Professor Anderson, starts us off with this reminder about the Brown versus Board education decision that was handed down by the Supreme Court. And instead of us seeing this big black advancement in education and everybody coming together, we see people looking at this not as the removal of a few racist individuals who are somehow stopping black advancement through education. We see the community, certain communities, respond to this for what it is. They see this as a blow to a system that is keeping a certain amount of power in education for a certain group of people. So what happens? They band together. They divest from public schools. They shut down public schools entirely. They create all these wonderful little Christian private schools under the name of protecting their children. And they do everything in their power to make sure that this systemic change to the educational system does not end up affecting them or advancing the very people they've been taught to hate. And the second thing that she brought up in this conversation, and that comes up a lot in the book, is this idea that when you think about these things in terms of just good guys versus bad guys, as opposed to a complicated system that has been working to promote a certain kind of discrimination and undermine certain groups of people, what you end up doing is you miss the signs that have always been there. What do I mean by signs? Dog whistles, certain coded language about protecting families or protecting the safety of the town or things like that.
All right, racists.
You not fab like that to be doing all of that.
Learn your place, earn your spot.
So why are you mad at Black Americans for being better? Your envy has turned into a hatred that literally makes no sense. You're burning inside with a bitter, choking realization that from the very beginning, the true indigenous people of this land have been and always will be better than you. And this isn't just white people. This is everyone that is not a copper-colored melanated person. You cast outward hate and jealousy towards the people who do not deserve this treatment. You shame them for violence and crime that is manufactured and faked in the media to propagandize superiority. The original people have a capacity for a grace that your racist spirit cannot even comprehend. Look at the evidence. Black people could unleash a wrath on everyone, and they simply choose to be better. Their ancestors had the divine authority to ignore the filthy boat, also known as the USS Incest, packed full of savage colonizers. But they didn't do that. They were better than that. And the reward for being better? Cruelty, because you knew you could never be better at humanity. Your ancestors backstabbed the people that made it possible for any of us to be here. It's like your hatred burns hotter because you know that Black Americans' restraint is not a weakness. It is a proof of strength you do not possess. It's the clearest demonstration that the original people operate on a higher moral frequency. Racist America, you know this. You see Black brilliance in art and in music and in science and in culture. Industries you had to bar Black Americans from legally, just to give yourselves a head start. And you still lost. You hate Black people because their mere existence is a living, breathing report card on your own moral and spiritual failure. To admit that the original people are better would force you to confront the truth of your own profound lowness. It would also mean that the people that you have spent centuries trying to destroy are in fact your moral and spiritual superiors in every conceivable way. So you cling to your hatred. It's the only thing that keeps you up at night. It's the lie that you tell yourselves to avoid the shattering conclusion that the savages you invented in your head were a reflection in the mirror the whole time.
I don't think people realize how exhausting it is to be Black everywhere. Not just in America, not just in the South. I'm talking globally here. Because wherever we go, there's a version of the same fight that's just waiting for us. And it's one thing to feel like a second-class citizen in your own country, but it's another thing entirely to realize the whole world sees you that way too. You ever hear people say, just leave, America's the problem? As if racism is something that you can outrun. As if anti-Blackness is some sort of American export. So let me tell you something. In Brazil, which is the blackest country outside of Africa, police kill Black people like it's sport. But it's not just the cops, it's the beauty industry that sells skin bleach. It's the store owners that follow you. It's the neighbors that flinch when your child walks by. In the UK, you can speak perfect Queen's English, but still be denied housing, passed over for jobs, and told to go back to Africa like your birth certificate doesn't say Birmingham. In France, they don't need to say Black to criminalize you. They just hide it behind secularism. They ban your head wrap, regulate your natural hair, silence your protest chants, and when you speak up, they act like you're the problem. And the people? They'll clutch their bags, they'll ignore you in interviews, and whisper the N-word when they don't think that you understand French. In China, Black students were kicked out of housing during COVID, just for being African. But long before that, there were restaurant bans, fake job ads saying no Blacks, and videos mocking our features going viral with millions of likes. In India, you'll be fetishized on one corner and insulted on the next. And if you're African, they'll stare, laugh, and sometimes they'll spit on you. In Ukraine, when the war broke out, white refugees got seats, and Black refugees got barricades. In Libya, we're still being sold in 2025. And nobody's storming embassies for that. Let that sit, because being Black is not the issue. The world's relationship with Blackness is. And here's what bothers me the most. They want our rhythm, but not our presence. Our slang, our dances, our music, our clothing. But not our humanity. They'll rock locks on a runway but call them ghetto at school. They'll say Wakanda forever and still scream monkey at the next Black soccer player. They'll ask to touch your hair, or not even ask. They'll mock your nose, and then turn around and say that you're too sensitive. And don't even get me started on influencers. Black American culture gets ridiculed as loud or uneducated until someone else steals it for likes. We're told that we don't have culture by people that are dancing to our beats, speaking our slang, and wearing our clothes. We are everywhere, but still nowhere. Loved, but not protected. Seen, but never safe. So if you've been feeling it too, that quiet, aching exhaustion that comes from just trying to exist, you're not broken, you're not paranoid, you're Black, in a world that's been trained to hate you. That hate lives in systems, but it also lives in people, in the stares, in the silence, and the smiles that tighten when you walk into the room. But here's what they can't erase. We are global, we are ancient, and we are surviving. From Accra to Atlanta, London to Kingston, we are still here. And the moment we stop letting borders divide us, that's the moment we become unstoppable.
Well, welcome back. So that right there, that racism is rooted in jealousy is what they don't want to admit. That deep down, a lot of what fuels racism is fear and it is envy. Think about it from, this perspective. How else do you explain the destruction of Black Wall Street in America? How do you explain the banning of Black history or the constant attempts to undermine, Black achievements in America, in Africa, worldwide? Why would you be trying to undermine achievements of a given people? It's because every time Black people shine, it reminds the white supremacists that the lie of racial superiority is actually built on quicksand, or their system in itself, their white superiority or their racial superiority is actually built on a lie. For centuries, they told Black people that they were inferior, or they tried to express, that Black people are inferior. But even despite slavery, segregation, colonialism, economic sabotage, Black people have always still, managed to arise from that. We still create, we still inspire, we still build, we still live, and most importantly, we still thrive. In the midst of all the sabotage. That's actually not inferiority. That is resilience. That is divine resilience. So notice how when they say Black people are taking over, okay, what they really mean is that we cannot handle seeing Black people win. That's what they mean when they say Black people are taking over. Because when Black people succeed, or when Black people are succeeding, it exposes the truth. It brings the truth to the table for everyone to see. That success isn't at all tied to the color of anyone's skin. It's not tied to skin color. It is tied to determination, resilience, brilliance, and to humanity. And that terrifies those who have actually systematically been conditioned to believe that they are naturally superior just because of their appearances, And that's why they hate seeing Black people, dominate, Black people build. They hate to see black tech entrepreneurs, be it in the Americas, in the Caribbean, be it in Africa. They hate to see the rise of Black people. It's not because of something that Black people are doing wrong. It's actually because of what they are doing right. And if you look around today, basically in the world we're living in currently, in 2025, with the economy shifting, the systems that have been there collapsing currently. Look at what is happening in America, and the world generally just changing. Some of these same people who used to mock the Black struggle are now struggling themselves. Look at what is happening with the white America or white people in America. They themselves are now struggling. They used to say Black people are lazy and that Black people need to work harder. Now they are the ones crying the loudest on social media, on mainstream media, that they cannot afford rent, they're losing jobs, and they're blaming immigrants for the problems. And they used to say to tell black people, just work harder. And now they're begging the same people they once looked down on to teach them how to survive in America. Because they have seen black people have been through this struggle, a way worse struggle for 400 so years, and they're still thriving. And now they're begging them, how do you survive this? And this is just a test of what, a small little test of what black people have gone through, especially in America. So yes, black excellence really equals white rage, black people succeeding, white people getting annoyed at that fact. Because black people's ability to survive, even thrive through oppression, injustice, reveals that their so-called supremacy, white supremacy, was nothing but just a fragile illusion. So racism isn't born from superiority. That is something we need to really agree on. In conclusion, it is not anything to do with any kind of superiority or supremacy. It is born out of fear, insecurity, and jealousy. And there is also the fear of losing control, fear of being exposed. See, a liar does not want to be caught and held to account for their lies. And that's exactly what's happening today. The mask is falling off. The mask of the lies, the illusion of supremacy and superiority is being exposed. The weaknesses are being exposed. Black excellence is not just success. It is actually now becoming a mirror that reflects the weaknesses of white supremacy. So I'd say I'd really embrace and urge black people to keep shining, to keep winning, to keep holding on strong, because every black victory is another crack in that wall of lies. And every time they rage, they are unhappy of what black people are doing, it's more proof they can't handle the truth of the greatness of black people. So, in conclusion, would say racism is actually rooted in jealousy, in fear, and an inferiority complex. Yeah, so that is what we had for you in this video. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and you can share it as well. And thank you for sticking along until this part of the video. Now we've come to the end of the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you haven't, to support this small channel. And with that, I'll see you in the next video. One love, black people.